Okay, recording has started.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our May monthly data reporting managers training/call. Um, it's hard to believe that we are here. Nonetheless, we're going to keep it moving. We do have Lori James from Frontline to go over some final things with us as we begin our transition of systems officially. So she's going to join. Probably in about 10 to 15 minutes to give us some update, and then I'll come back with some final closeout items. On today's call, uh-oh. On today's call, we're going to talk about the LRE corrections document that I sent on yesterday. We're also going to talk about Indicator 14, your ESY submissions, what's coming down the pikes for Indicator 8, your profiles and determinations, our Table 5, and then Lori's going to come with us, and then we'll talk about the SUNS ID and transition of systems, things to look for 7, 11, and 12, and closing out your Table 4 report. Okay, so the document that I sent on yesterday, those were students that met the school age criteria, which means that they were at least in kindergarten and 5 years old, but they were showing an LRE code of separate place or separate class, I'm sorry. And so in the spreadsheet that I sent to you, you have to go in. I have mass changed them all to RC39, but just in case the students are not that, if that's not their LRE code, then I created a validation drop-down list for you in column H. You are to go in and select the appropriate LRE code, and save it for each of, make the corrections for each of the students on that list, save it and return it to me via the special education services at ed.sc.gov email address. We need this back by next Wednesday. If the RC39 is correct for your students, just send me an email letting me know that it is correct and I can clear you off of the list. I did not put this in ADT again, so I just sent the Excel spreadsheet to you via email. So if you could just download it, select your district and save it as your district name and return it to me, that would be great. I greatly appreciate that. For Indicator 14, we have prepared this survey postcard for the parents to be mailed out. I am extending the opt-in districts, giving them until the end of July to complete the surveys with the parents for the opt-in districts, and then we'll send that over to the remainder of the surveys to the vendor to complete. I will be sending updates on Mondays. I'll do my best to send updates on Mondays. Sometimes Mondays are a little hectic, so you may get them late Monday afternoon, early Tuesday morning. On August 1st is when we'll be sending the balance of the not opting in districts surveys to the vendors, as well as those who responded with no answer or 3 attempts for the exclusion. They will be added back into the list for the vendors to, as one last attempt for the vendors to track them down on your behalf. I've included the survey link in English and in Spanish, as well as the recording with the instructions on how to complete the surveys with the parent. We also included a QR code just in case you have families that may want it via email. You are certainly more than welcome to send it to the parents or to the students via email as well. Okay, just wanted to remind you that right now for the compliance points, there's a max of 18 points that a district can receive, and for the performance factors, 21 points for a total of 39. There is one automatic point built into everyone's determination for total possible points of 40. And if you are an opt-in district and your response rate is 50% or higher, you get an additional bonus points for the for your determinations. And the formula for the response rate would be the ones that says not applicable. Those are actually the families that were surveyed, and divided by the total number in your source file count. Okay. The ESY certifications are due no later than June 7th. We are really on a tight timeline. We got a lot going on and a lot of deadlines that we must adhere to as we close out this current year. Please, we are encouraging you to submit sooner rather than later, just to get an idea of anything going on. For your ESY certifications, you want to send those to the Special Education Services at ed.sc.gov email address. And we've also included a link in the actual PowerPoint that you received on yesterday to the certification form that needs to be returned to our office. We do have all of the submissions for Indicator 8 from the districts. There's a couple of districts that are still having some issues. They're testing their systems to to determine why they were unable to submit. So those testing are still going on, even though we have received their information, just to be sure that it's not something that's going to prevent them from from submitting the balance of their reports. But we do have those districts' data, but we're still testing why we did not receive it in the background. So for these districts that are listed for the parent involvement survey for the 23-24 school year, just a reminder, we're going to be mailing out the postcards to the parents to complete the survey. As a district, you can send reminders via flyers, news blast, whatever you can to let the districts know that it's not a spam and that someone from the SCDE will be sending a postcard for the families to complete on behalf of the districts. Okay. Your profiles and determinations will be posted to the website no later than June 1st. Everyone should have their final copies in ADT by now. And what's there is actually valid. And the time frame to make changes or to dispute has passed. I did include a direct link to the website, as well as gave you the path to get to the profiles and determinations on our website, just for easy access. Okay. Table 5. Yay! We are finally at the point where you guys will not have to submit, but Albert and Yolanda have been working diligently on the tool for you guys to be able to download your discipline data and share it just to check your data. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We've gotten great feedback. I think we're near a final product for you to be able to download and check and share with schools in your district, provided your IT department says it's okay to use macros. We are sorry for those whose folks says no, but to those who have, we've gotten great feedback on the use and ease of the tool for you to submit. For those districts who are who do not have permission to use macros, you're still required to check your data in whatever manner you did previously. So if your districts are not allowing you to use macros, I would highly recommend you making sure that you have access to the PowerSchool incident management tool that's provided by a dean's office, or talk very, very closely with your incident management coordinator within your district to just make sure that you are on the same path, or that you guys are in sync with your discipline data. There are things that they are required to do that doesn't necessarily meet our needs and vice versa. So you want to be sure that the data that's going to impact your reports are corrected within the incident management report. Once a Beans report is finalized, you cannot make any changes. So get in there, look at your data prior to, because her data is finalized as of the third week in June. I'm going to say the third week in June. She gave me the dates. I don't remember them exactly. But I know that she is publishing updates to incident management twice a day, and has been since, I want to think it's been since May 8th that she started publishing to the validations twice a day. So you have 2 times a day where you can go in and make changes and receive updates on your data for incident management. Okay. Um, Once again, this is just a tool for you to be able to use in your districts. You don't have to send us anything for Table 5 anymore. We are going to use Avine's final report to run the report. Um, yeah, so that's where we are. Okay, and Lori is up next. Lori, if you have a PowerPoint, you can take control.
Okay, I do. And I'm going to be sharing some Excel files as examples as well and work through these. So let's see if I can request control.
I've not seen it come through yet.
Lori, if you
Oh,
have
there
your
we go. There we go. I found it.
Carolyn, do you have the PowerPoint
I
available
do
on here?
not. I do
Okay, so
not.
Lori, if you're gonna be using your own PowerPoints, you're gonna have to just share your screen and not take
Okay.
control.
Oh, okay. So I'm
I'm going to
gonna
stop
put
sharing.
find. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with using this. I'm so used to Zoom. Where is the share?
It should be at the
It's
top of
Gotta
your
at
find
screen.
the
it.
top. Okay.
And okay.
Just while Lori is doing that, I'm looking in the chat. So originally the date was June 30th, but I'm extending it because we're at mid-May right now. I'm extending it until July 31st just to give additional time before we send it over to the vendors.
Okay.
Uh,
Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
And can you see it okay?
We see your screen, but it's not in presenter mode.
Put it in. It's showing presenter mode on mine. Let's see. Well, it's got presenter mode on mine. I don't know if it's reading yours as a second screen or.
You might be able to switch the screen that is being shown at the top of your presenter mode screen. We do see you going through the slides, so we can at least see the slides if you
Okay.
want to.
But yeah, and
proceed.
I'm gonna want to switch to the examples anyway. So if it's okay, we'll just go through like this.
Sure.
I apologize. I just want to hit on the reporting information that's coming due this summer, specifically indicator 12, 11, 7, table 4, and then I'm just going to touch on the IEP transition data. I included that mostly so that it's in the forefronts of your minds, which I'm sure it already is, but I just wanted to include it to know that, this is one of the things you need to have in consideration with these summer submissions. And Carolyn, please feel free to interject at any point, particularly on this slide. Um, the things I wanted to remind people of is you want to complete and print your progress reports. So you need to be communicating that with your team leads that they want to, for the current IEPs, get those progress reports completed and printed, and it's much easier to do it in mass prior to finalization of the upcoming plans for next year, which are going to need finalized prior to your data submission for your IEP transition information. So something they need to be working on and getting done, and definitely be in communication and monitoring with your staff about that. You want to make sure all of your plans are finalized and actions, as we've been talking about throughout the year, and getting that done prior to submissions, so that if anything impacts any of the submissions, in particular that IEP transition data, that they'll be included and accurate on that. In regards to due dates, each district is asked to submit their reports on the last day of school for that district. I know that can be a really hectic day, and potentially you can't get it till the next day. That is understood, but we need to stagger submissions as well as get them completed so they can be reviewed and any feedback or corrections done before we go to read only. So the sooner you can get your submissions in, the better shape you'll be in. Please try and do them on or as close as you can to your last day of school for your district. All submissions are due no later than June 14th. But of course, if everybody waited till June 14th, you're going to overload the system, as well as that doesn't give you any time for corrections or for working should any issues arise. So, it's very important that you try and begin your submissions as soon as possible, but that need to be up by close of business on June 14th at the absolute latest. And no changes should be made after that point. So by 5 p.m. on June 14th, you shouldn't be making any changes. And if you're submitting prior, you also don't want to make changes that would impact your data, of course, unless you're going to resubmit due to an error that was identified. You want to have that information representative of course, the reports that are submitted, and in particular, your IEP transition data. After that, it will be read only. you know, make sure all your staff is told not to make any changes. Of course, the read only, takes a bit to get implemented. So you want to make sure that you are communicating when your submissions have taken place, and that no one is to make changes in your district after that regarding those components. So Carolyn, anything you want to add to that?
No, I have a couple of follow-up summary reminders on the end about this very same item. So,
Okay,
you're good.
great, thank you. The other, just in general with reports, the validation rules, there are validation rules about enrollment, and demographics, in particular blanks, that obviously you shouldn't have any. So on all of the reports, you want to check and make sure that there's a school listed, that, they have their, date of birth, that the first name, if they have a middle name, that it's listed. And so we have some warnings to prompt you to check that, in case it was overlooked. So those can be entered, as well as if there are blanks on ones that are required, obviously your reporting race, ethnicity, those kinds of fields. So all your enrollment and demographic, we have validation rules in there. And then each report has some specific to that report content to try to help you with that. Now, some of these are listed as warnings items just to check and be aware of, particularly the middle name. Um, you know, Not everybody has a middle name, but most people do, or a great number do. So that's a warning. So just so you can check it. There are errors, and then there are critical errors. Now, critical errors are things we're really trying to draw your attention to that you really should correct prior to submission, although there are going to be some instances where you might not be able to. There's one particular rule I'll show you where you have to report that information manually to the state. So you are able to submit if there is a critical error. Yes, we want you to try and correct them, but that doesn't mean that, you know, if you can't get it corrected, or if there's a time crunch and you need to, report that one component to the state separately afterwards, you certainly can submit and are expected to submit, even if you still have a critical error on that report. So try and correct them, yes, but that does not mean you cannot submit. You can physically submit and the report will go up even if it has that critical error. So let's talk about indicator 12. Of course, you want to finalize all your data prior to reporting. You have for particular validations, warning, errors, and criticals, the age here is representative of June 30th, that the child should be between 3 and 21. Although there are some, you've entered them early or done that particularly with trying to finish things out ahead of time. So also you have specific to indicator 12 that if there is an outcome reason subcode that is blank, that there's something wrong and it's going to generate an error message trying to prompt you to what that error is so that you can correct it. And if you have overdue days, a positive number that you have passed this child's third birthday, then you must give a reason. And so you can't have a blank in that field. And we'll talk about how you can correct those should you have any of them. So those are important with indicator 12. Some things just as examples and to draw your attention to, both 11 and 12, the outcome reason, that's your reporting field. That's the critical one that is the final result of looking at all the data, what the system is saying is the status for that particular student record. So that is your most important field. So the outcome reason report field is the one you really want to look at first, and then you can look at the other fields in comparison to that and for additional information. The other fields provide other data elements and information to help you to use in reviewing your file, to assist you in that review. And it just provides additional information so that you don't have to go look up each student when you have questions. The data may show in a few instances some things that have occurred afterwards, particularly on indicator 12 if you've selected no reason to suspect. We did remove it if you said the student was not eligible and then in the future they are re-referred and they're actually placed and then they have an IEP. So those students won't show IEP dates, but we still have some because we didn't want to make too many changes to the report this late in the game. And it's just for information purposes, it just is pulling additional information for that field, that if you selected no reason to suspect, and so under your outcome reason in the report field, it says there's no reason to suspect a disability, but then after that, the child was placed and does have a plan, it's going to show those plan dates because it's just showing the field start date of a plan and it'll generate that data in it. So you can look at the dates though and see, oh, that was after, so it's really not an error. Or of course, you can always check the student's individual record. But just one thing I wanted to make sure, because that might be confusing and we didn't want anyone to, be concerned that there might be an issue. And we'll look at an example of that in a minute. So why review your data and all of the components other than just that outcome reason? Well, sometimes some things are to alert you, such as if you filtered to all of the outcome reasons that say in process, and you're like, well, they're still in process, they're not going to be included this year, I don't have to worry about them. You still want to check all of that data because in process may have some IEP dates and it shows that that IEP is still in draft. It hasn't been finalized. Well, that's fine if the IEP is in the future, such as this example, and you can see it has that the IEP start date is 5/20. So it hasn't happened yet. So they haven't necessarily had that meeting yet. It still says edit draft. It hasn't been finalized. You want to be on alert and make sure that gets finalized in time for your reporting. You can see you've got both indicator 11 and 12 are impacted here, and you've got your warnings up in that Chevron time items showing you that those are coming due. And so you want to follow up, make sure they're on target, there's no problems, and that this does get finalized in a timely manner. The other thing is, it could be that it's an older one, such as this one, that was not finalized and should have been. or there's some issue that needs to be addressed. And you can see that this IEP actually was supposed to start on 2/13/2024. So that's one you would want to investigate and find out what the issue is. Some other things with indicator 12 to consider are your overdue days. I would check any that are overdue because, of course, this is a 100% compliance indicator, meaning you shouldn't have any that exceed the timeline. So any that are overdue, see if there's anything that can be done. As there was a data issue, data entry, miscommunication, something that you could look at. Um, the district selects an overdue reason for indicator 12 if the student is found not eligible on the eligibility determination, then you can select an overdue reason there. If they exit prior to that, that's one where you would have to manually let the State Department know because there's nowhere to enter that. The three options for overdue reasons for indicator 12 are listed here, referred to Part B, less than 90 days, parent delays, and LEA failure. So those are the ones that the district selects. If the student's not eligible and you're overdue when you get to that eligibility determination, upon finalization of that component, you can select the reason there. If you find the student eligible and proceed to the IEP, then it is based on the start date of the IEP, and upon finalization of the IEP, you can select the reason. Sometimes, though, the students had to exit prior to either of those events. And so it's going to show if you put the SPED exit reason after their third birthday that they're overdue. Those you'd have to report to the state. But check these, make sure. As you can see in this example that I found in preparing for today, this one, the parent denied or removed consent to evaluate. If you look at the date that they did that, you'll see the referral, evaluation planning, consent refused or no response. That was ended on 1/24/24. However, they then had to have some time possibly, but looks like they got it done that same day. The prior written notice was completed because that's required to send to them. But when did they exit the student? Not until 4/16/2024, well past the child's third birthday. But in reality, they completed the components necessary on 1/24. So this is a correction they could make. There's no reason to have this record overdue on your indicator 12 report because you found, consent was refused and prior written notice was sent by 1/24/24. So that exit reason needs adjusted to 1/24/24 or 1/25/24, which would put this before the student's third birthday. So that's why it's so important to review your information on these reports. So let's take a look at um, indicator 12 as an example. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because I think I have to reselect what I share.
Or you can continue sharing, just move what you're presenting over to the screen that's active. There you go. We can see it.
Okay, great. So I've pulled and compiled several districts indicators 12 datas and put them on here. So I have three different district samples to provide to you. Your first fields are your demographic and enrollment information. Obviously, you want to just check those for blanks or any, things that look odd, like under your um, child count age. Are there any ages that wouldn't make sense? You can use that drop down to check those. You want to check your race, ethnicities, all of those fields, first name, last name, date of birth, gender, etc. And so I always just go through those and review them. Most of them, however, if there is an error, you're going to find that all the way on the end. And this, just to reiterate, is the district validation report. And the district is got the same elements as come up to the state and then some to aid you in really reviewing your data and having additional information. So the same warnings that would go up to the state are here, and errors and critical messages. Under your warnings, it's going to tell you if there's some concerns about the age that maybe you want to check that. It's going to tell you if the middle name is blank. And of course, some students might have both things, so they'll be listed there and the others are blank. These are just cautionary, just double check items. Error message, I don't believe I have any here. And then under the criticals, I have quite a few more. So let's slide over and take a look at some of those criticals. You can see here the LEP status name is blank. Scheduling RE is blank. Those are those demographic and enrollment items that you would need to check, and you would have to enter those in PowerSchool and have them feed over to Enrich. So that's going to take some additional time because you've got to, in most cases, get with your PowerSchool person, or even if you have access, it's still not going to feed to that night. Then what if something happens with that import? Just allow yourself extra time to make sure these things can get done. You can start clearing these up right now. So those are there. And then there are some that are more specific to the report, and we'll look at these as we go through too, such as the outcome reason subcode is blank. Remember, I talked about the outcome reason is that critical final status. So if the subcode for it is blank, then something's wrong. So it has various combinations of things that you could have there. So do, of course, check all of those. And to help you interpret them when you do see issues, this is your critical column. This one that says outcome reason. Here's the outcome reason code and subcode. If the subcode is blank, that's telling you it doesn't have a valid reporting reason under the outcome reason because there's an issue that needs corrected first. So this is your critical field on your report. This is the final status for that record. The other fields do additional data to help you interpret or correct or understand that, or just review it. We talked about a couple of things earlier, such as screening resulted in no disability prior to the 3rd birthday. So if I have that, then I need to just double check that all that information was done correctly. And you can see most of them don't have plan dates. This particular record does. But if you look at the planned meeting, that's 123. And if you look at the SPED exit date, or 123-24, let me point out the year. If you look at the SPED exit date for this student when no disability was suspected, it is 9/18/2023. So this is just providing me information that, yep, at this point, we didn't suspect a disability and we exited the student and they weren't, and so for indicator 12, we're done. In the future, on 1/23/24, we did place the child. So that's just giving you that information. Personally, I would kind of be reviewing these as a district in that if no disability is suspected here, and then very soon after I had a whole bunch of students that do get placed, I'd want to look at processes and procedures and see what's going on, that there would be that change. And, how long after that occurrence when we ended them as not suspecting the disability, that did we turn around and say, So it's just provided as additional information to help you in reviewing your data. What goes up to, as far as the state is looking at, they're saying for this student that was referred from part B to C, from part C to B, that there was no reason to suspect a disability. So they did not get evaluated, they did not get placed, and they're moved that way. So that's the one example. We talked about some in particular. This one student that we had, overdue days. There's nothing wrong with this record. It has the OL, overdue parent denied or removed consent to evaluate, and that's the final status. But it's one of my ones that's overdue. That's the value of checking it. Remember, it was not exited until 4/16, but if you look at those dates, it was referred C to B on 12/13, and then it was removed prior to that. If you go to the sped exit date, I can find that one. All my fields start to dance before my eyes. The sped exit date we have at 4/16. That's a big variation, so that's why I wanted to check that one. And sure enough, it should have had a sooner sped exit date than that. And it wouldn't be counting against the district. So just something to be aware of and checking. You can sometimes find some. These are ones in process. You'll see that it says these students are in process, but then it does give me some dates that a plan is in place. And remember that these are still in draft is why. So it's pulling that start date of the IEP, but the IEP hasn't been finalized. This one, at the time I pulled this, it was right on 5/13. So it's probably since been finalized, but point being, there's some right around that very same time, and I want to check and make sure those get finalized because they're going to be important for reporting. And then there's some that the dates tell me that was earlier. I need to really check into that. So ones to look at. One thing I do want to caution is do not include names in your comments. I had some records here where I have overdue days, and then I have parent, the overdue comments, and it had a student's name here, so I inserted my own. Remember that, we know in the name fields that there are children's names there, and we're very careful when we need to, for whatever purposes, the state redacts those, that kind of thing. But sometimes they're pulling examples that they have to put on different items, and they may not notice if you have a name in a comment. So don't include names in comments. Remove those and just refer to it as the student, the parent, that kind of thing. Just a cautionary thing to include there, because you can see if I go over to my overdue days and I just glance at all of these comments, I'm not necessarily going to see that there's a name embedded in there. So be cautious there. So overdue reasons, your outcome reasons, I would be checking your outcome reasons. I would look at each one. I like to filter and just double check all of them. But in particular, you want to look any that have an error. If there is an error here, you need to correct it. This is also going to be denoted under your critical errors. So let's take a look at some. This is change ED outcome to eligible initial BabyNet. This just means that you have selected eligible initial. If the student is eligible, there's a second timeline that's included in the calculation to look at the IEP or the plan. So if you've only picked eligible initial, it's not going to do that. So you need to make sure you have eligible initial BabyNet. So this is just telling you you need to go into your eligibility determination, do an administrative edit, and change that outcome. So it tries to tell you what it is you need to do to correct it. This one says the ED outcome conflicts with the placement consent. So you need to look at those two items. What does the ED outcome say and how does it conflict? And you can see here, one of them we have under my placement, it says consent is received, and then it's going to conflict with my eligibility determination. So, look at those, compare them, go back and find out. Because here, why would I get consent if, for instance, look at your C to B, it says no disability suspected, yet you got consent. So look at that and see what the discrepancy is and clean that up. Um, this one says consent is received also, so go back and look at that ED. So it does try to point out what fields you need to verify and look at to help you in reviewing your data. SPED exit conflicts. Here you have the SPED exit conflicts with the ED outcome. You have no disability suspected. Remember, no disability suspected is prior to an evaluation. If you do an evaluation, you suspected a disability, then you may find them not eligible, but you suspected a disability or you didn't get consent to evaluate. So you need to check that. If it says here, that you're going to initiate the referral and all, and then get consent to evaluate, you shouldn't have no disability suspected as your SPED exit reason. This one has not eligible, and so you would want to see what is going on with that, because obviously that SPED exit is not agreeing with the eligibility determination outcome. And this one, that the SPED exit indicates placement, which conflicts. These are when you have moved known to be continuing, that indicates that the student was placed and received services. So you can't select move known to be continuing unless a student was in special education. So if they were not placed in special education, you should not select that as your SPED exit reason. So you want to find out what's going on with those. These have no reason, no disability suspected. So obviously they weren't placed. So you need to look at that. And you can look at additional fields as well. I'm just trying to point out some things to help you with this and the review of your data. So anything under your outcome reasons that has an error is something that needs to be corrected. And it tries to provide you additional information to know what to look at to make that correction. So look at all of those, and any that don't have an error, I still like to check, particularly for indicator 12. I would check any that have a positive number in my overdue days column. So I would check all of these that have overdue days. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you see, and then look at those and see, are there any that's a data entry error, any that has an abnormally high number of days or low number of days that I want to specifically look at to see if there can be a correction in my data input that may prevent them from being overdue. The other thing I like to do, remember this is your district version that I pulled, and so it gives you lots of good information. I like to check their age and, find any of the students that are of a particular age. Sorry, I gotta find my fields here. Um, Birthday, this is going to show in K, age as of June 30th, the reporting period. So if they are going to be 3 or higher, I would want to check because they should be completed and included on the report. And then of course, look at those that are older as to why. Because this is your C to B, which is placement by age 3. So some with that are 5, I would want to check into and find out what's going on that. Some of them may 4 if you were overdue, but otherwise you're looking at that. Now those that are going to be 2, well, they're not going to be due until your next year's reporting period. And I would check those just in case some are completed so that they get reported in a timely manner. But those you not worrying that the deadline is approaching for them. So that's a quick view of indicator 12 and how to review your information in your report once you pull it. Obviously, you want to look at any of your warnings, errors, or critical errors. Your final status or outcome for the student record is that outcome reasons. You want to check those. Any that have an error message need to be reviewed and corrected. You also want to check any positive numbers that you have in your overdue days and check those records for any abnormalities or data entry issues, and then check by the age as of June 30th. So we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. Did it transition so that you can see the PowerPoint, or do I need to refresh that?
No, just move your PowerPoint slide to the active window. We should be able to see it.
I'm only on my laptop, so
Oh, yeah, then you'll probably have to unshare and share again.
yeah. Okay, so let me share again, and we'll go back. We'll just say, here's entire screen. We'll do that. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. So for indicator 11, moving on, it's very similar with 12 in that you're still going to have those same validations for demographics and enrollment we talked about. Age again is going to be as of June 30th. And then specific to this report, some errors that you would see under your critical error messages would be the outcome reason subcode is missing. And so that means that there's an error message in your outcome reason, very much the same as we just saw on indicator 12. And one in particular to point out also is overdue comments are blank. If you see that as an error message, there is that one anomaly that you would have to individually report to the state, and that is if the student exited prior to the opportunity to enter an overdue reason. Remember on indicator 12, if they're not eligible, you're going to enter your overdue reasons when you complete that eligibility determination, or rather your evaluation if you're over. If they are eligible, it's going to be when you finalize the IEP. Sorry, 12, eligibility determination and plan. 11 is going to be your evaluation. So what if you don't get to evaluation and the student exits? Or for 12, what if you don't get to eligibility or a plan and they exit and they are overdue at the time of exit? There's no place to enter that reason. I would add it to your SPED exit comment so that you have reference to it there, but you're going to get the error message that an overdue reason is required, and you will need to communicate that to the state separately through a different means. So I just did want to point that one out, that error message, if you don't get to those items where you register that overdue reason within the system, then you're going to have to communicate it separately. So for indicator 11, there are the 4 delay reasons that are selected by the district if you are overdue. So they are listed here. Remember to look at that outcome reason field. And it's the same here is an example of indicator 11. And you can see we have similar things. The outcome reason is what you really want to concentrate on, go through. You're going to have in processes that don't go up to the state, but you want to monitor and make sure those get done in a timely manner. You're going to have, if they were overdue and you selected an overdue reason, those will be the ones reflected here. If there's a district error you need to correct, that will be reflected here, and it will be listed under the criticals. And so you want to check all of those items there and make sure they are accurate. And this is the final status for the student. You have additional columns to help you in that review. Overdue comments field, that you can check. And this is the due date, so you can see ones that are in process if they're approaching soon, to help you to make sure that you're on top of things. And additional fields just to assist you depending on what you're looking at. But there's your warnings, errors, and criticals. And let me see if I had any particular notes. Again, avoid using names and comments. I found several with that. And then there was one different one I wanted to point out. An equal sign should be avoided because if you're on, this is being generated and saved in Excel. So And then if it starts with equals, Excel's looking for a formula. So this one it's coming up name, and can't read it. If I click on it, I can see what was written there, but it started with an equals, and so that's causing issues on the Excel spreadsheet. So just some, that quotation marks and equal signs, try to avoid those. But so you have your same issues with the warnings, error message, and critical messages that help you. If you have critical and it's a data entry here, it's going to give you the district error, what it is to go specifically look at and correct. Any that have positive numbers in your overdue days, again, I would filter to positives and I would look at all of those. And there's just additional information on here, such as disabilities, IEP dates, those kind of things, exit dates that can help you in review of your data. Remember to compare if you have some, you know, that have a SPED exit date and an evaluation date, you can compare the distance between them to see. Sometimes, that gives you a clue if it's something that can be corrected or not. Different information. So real quick there, I know we're going to be short on time. So next thing I want to go over is indicator 7. And I will provide this spreadsheet, this PowerPoint to Carolyn so she can provide it to the districts if you all would like it. Indicator 7, your data review, of course, finalize your data. You get your demographics and enrollment issues, and then you have specific report errors. The things with indicator 7 is the clock starts. Most of the questions I get are like, but we didn't have time for 6 months of service. The report is going to determine if there was time for 6 months of service based on the clock start and the clock stop. What starts the clock? Either the earliest EC plan that it can identify or the entry COSIF date. So it looks at those two things and picks the one that happens first. And that includes transfers. So if you pull in a plan from another district, a COSIF from another district, it's using that date to start the calculation. And a lot of people are doing it just from the enrollment date, and they're confused, saying, well, we didn't have 6 months of service. It's going to count the earliest date because the student was getting services, maybe not at your district, but somewhere else. And so you want to make sure that you understand that. And so it does have both of those on the report, as well as which one it used to determine the start date. So what stops the clock? Well, it's going to stop by the child's 6th birthday unless something else happens earlier. What else can happen? Well, you put in that exit COSIF. So that's in there, is going to use that date. Your plan has a school age LRE. It's not going to look at the grade to determine if they're kindergarten, because some students are in early childhood settings even though they're technically in kindergarten. And so PowerSchool, they put the age appropriate grade, so it's kindergarten. So we can't use that to determine if they're in 5K. So it looks at the plan and it finds the earliest LRE that's school age on any of the plans in the system, and it uses that date to determine they were in 5K. So you can use their age and that school age LRE. And what if they exit early? So of course the SPED exit date is also a clock stopper. Whichever one of those things happens first is what stops the clock. You can see the order it looks at them listed here. So first is an exit COSIF, then school age LRE, then SPED exit, and then age 6, order of priority. And it does identify what if the clock is stopped and by what on the indicator 7 report. What doesn't the state look at? Well, there is a field on your report that says exclude, and that's for if there is less than 180 days of service. So if any of those items occurred and it didn't get 180 days of service and the clock stopped, there's a field called exclude. The state's going to filter to those excludes and take them out of the equation because they did not receive enough services. They're still on there for informational purposes, but they don't count. Okay. It's also not going to even go up to the state if they're not yet done. The clock's still running. Those that are in process and won't be due until next year. And you can identify those as well. There's a status that tells you if they should be due this reporting year because of something that's been entered, like a school age LRE, or they're turning 6, or a bed exit date, or COSA exit date, etc. But if there's still information that it's waiting on, you can tell if it's due by this year, reporting year, or next. Okay, so let's take a look at indicator 7. I actually am so thrilled with this report because it does have all the capabilities of looking at this information for you. So here is that record status, okay, that says what you should do with them. But let's back up a little bit so we can see some of these. So we talked about the clock starter. It's going to tell you what it is as well as the start date. Here's your exclude, less than 180 days. You can just click and not worry about those. But of course, I always like to check them separately too, make sure there's no issues with them. But these are the ones that did not receive 180 days of service. These are your clock stop. What stopped the clock? Was it school age day, exit COSIF, 6th birthday? It will list here what it was that stopped the clock, or is anticipated to stop the clock because nothing else has occurred yet. And then it will tell you the date of the clock stop and whether or not it has officially stopped or not. This is what's anticipated. So like this one that has the 6th birthday, that's the only information the system has right now that's going to stop the clock. But if you added a school age LRE prior to the 6th birthday, if you added an exit COSIF prior to the 6th birthday, if you added a SPED exit date prior, then it would update it with that information. So here's the date that it's currently using. And once that date has occurred, if it's actually stopped, then it's indicated as stopped in this clock stopped column. So this information goes up to the state. And of course, remember, you have that field that tells you where the state fields end and yours start that are just for additional information for the districts on all these district reports. And one very important one after that that I think really helps the districts is this record status. And here you can see if it's complete, if it's due after the reporting year. So they're not going to go up to the state because they're not due yet. Or if it's due this reporting year, and are they complete? These are really critical to check and make sure they have their information or it's getting inputted. And then, of course, the ones that you exclude, so they don't count. So I would definitely be looking at these due this current reporting year. If it doesn't already have complete, check that what event is stopping the clock and on what date and getting them done. You have additional information over here with fields that can help you interpret and understand your data. So one thing I want to point out again, because it has come up a lot of times with the changes with the report, grade 5 in does not indicate that they are 5 and in kindergarten. So when it says 5K, they might not be in 5K. So what is it going to look at? It's going to look at that first school age LRE to determine that and their age. Some items. So like here, this one, you've met the days, so you need to add that exit COSIF information. And you can see on this one of them, I had a note on one of these, and the district was saying, no, they didn't get enough days of service. But if you look at the clock start and clock stop, they did. So I think it was a student that had transferred in, and it was, you can look at the clock start was off of that initial plan that came over from the other district. So things to look at if you have questions about these. And going back to the PowerPoint, I know I'm pushing time. I'm so sorry. Just want to point out that I do have some additional notes on here to help you to understand, which students are included and which students are excluded on table 4. The critical thing with table 4 I want to point out is you've got students that are graduating. They put in that last day of school, not the actual graduation ceremony. You have students getting your district diploma, put in that last day of school as their sped exit and close them out so that you can get your table 4 reporting done. Some things to know about the report as it was changed. There are 2 validations: sped exit reason, reached maximum age. If they're less than 20 as of child count, that's going to be a question. Regular high school diploma, if they're less than 16 as of child count, that would be a question, obviously. Inclusion criteria, they have to have been active as of June 30 of the preceding report year, and no longer in SPED at the end of the report year, and ages as of child count 14 through 21, and they are not PPPSC based on the initial consent. So some things to help you with deciphering that information. And then, as I said, I'm really not going into this. I just wanted to remind you, get those things finalized for your IEP transition data. Complete progress reports and mass print is the easiest way to do it. Of course, you can individually print, but prior to finalization of plans, then finalize your new plans, finalize any actions, get all that information ready for your IEP transition. And apologize again for going so long. Any questions? And if you do, you can.
Lori,
Yes.
I had a question to come up. When they go in, if the child was served for less than 180 days, do they have to go in and create a whole new record just to put in the dates only in
No,
the post?
no.
Okay.
It will pull that based on the data fields. It'll go from the start date, clock start, which is going to be based on the earliest planned start date, or the entry COSEF. So whichever one's first, it's going to take that as the clock start. And then it'll stop the clock based on the student's 6th birthday. If they have a school age LRE, the date of it, the first one that starts with that. If they have a sped exit date prior to that, or if they have an exit COSEF, which, in this case, they probably aren't going to, but it's going to compare those dates. And if it's less than 180 days, it'll put it in exclude, and they don't have to enter any information.
Okay, so that was a question from Lori. So Lori, I hope that answers your question on how you can input those dates.
I am checking emails because of the reporting. Normally I don't, but I am checking emails Mondays and Wednesday mornings up through June 14th. So if you have a question, there won't be as long a delay for me necessarily to see your email and respond to it. I will check emails Monday and Wednesday mornings. If anybody would like me to arrange a Zoom meeting with them, where, like I did here, I was looking at specific district data. I am happy to get on a Zoom meeting. You can pull your district validation reports and have them ready, and then we can review them together via a Zoom meeting if you're having trouble interpreting them, or need assistance with that. And so you can put that in an email to me. Allow for the day's delay, because I'm only going to look at emails to be able to schedule it on those Monday mornings and Wednesday mornings. So if you send one Monday morning, and you please put in 3 potential dates and times that you can meet, so that we don't have that back and forth, and I will schedule a Zoom meeting with you and assist you as best I can. So I am very sorry that I went over, and if you have additional questions, please send them to me in an email. And if you want individual assistance, please send me that as well with 3 potential dates and times, allowing, for me not to see your message until a Monday morning or a Wednesday morning. Okay, anything else that you need from me, Carolyn?
No, that concludes it. I am going to take over the screen. And share. I do apologize. We do have a couple more slides, about 10 slides of information to go through. We understand if you have to leave, time is of the essence and important. This recording is being recorded. This presentation is being recorded, sorry. And we will share it with you guys once it is converted for the website for YouTube. And we will include Lori's presentation with the update. There's been some corrections to the PowerPoint from what was sent out on yesterday. So you will get an updated copy of this. And Lori provided great information about critical errors and different things like that. We will not focus specifically or directly on those critical errors. We are only going to pay attention to what is required for those individual reports. So looking and knowing what is exactly required for indicator 11, the parent consent date, eval to complete date, and those outcomes. For indicator 12, looking specifically at did the child have an IEP in place by the 3rd birthday? And what is the outcome? Overdue reasons. We are not looking at race, ethnicity, those other critical errors, the LRE codes or different things like that we focused in on the past. We want to make this transition as smooth as possible. And as much as we would like to have the information in the system, it is not a deal breaker because the students that are reported this year will most likely go over into the new system as an inactive student if they didn't qualify. And if they are currently an active student, you will be able to complete the process in the new system. As it pertains to the son's ID number, I've received confirmation that they will have those son's ID number updated in the system by tomorrow. However, the merge duplicate process, they were not able to resolve some of them. Mostly it impacted the inactive students that got added back in because of the last 4 years in assigning son's ID number. However, they have said that if you would like assistance, if you have at least 50 or more students in your report, in your system that have like merged duplicate issues, if you send a ticket to support, they will assist you if you have at least 50 merged duplicate students in your system. Frontline will help you mass correct those, if you will, but it is not a priority to correct all instances. Only if you have at least 50 and send a ticket to support, they will help you resolve. And I know that there are at least 3 districts right now that have a ticket to support for specifically to help resolve those merge duplicate issues. So reach out to support for those merge duplicate if you have at least 50. If you want them resolved in your system before we transition, please note that based on the testing of the system, the merge duplicate error that you received did not prevent the data from going over into the new system. So just want to be clear about that. If you want it resolved, I get it. But if not, it's not a deal breaker either, at least based on the information that was conveyed. Okay. Once again, did want to point out that as we transition, we would like for you to submit indicators 7, 11, 12, Table 4, and also the IEP transition collection. So there's 5 submissions that we're going to be looking for from the districts on or before the last day of school. We do have a roster with the district's last day of schools, and staggering this submission will help with the the flow of the data coming through, as well as systems timing out. I know this is a lot, and we have districts that are ending next week. So although you may not make those, the districts afterwards, we're looking for you to submit and close out your year with these submissions on or before you, or on your last day of school, but definitely no later than June 14th. We do need you to get in there and test your data to make sure that it's going to come through and that there are no issues with your submissions prior to. And if you do try to submit and you get an error message, please send that ticket to support as soon as possible so that it can get on their radar and they can start troubleshooting why your submission is not working. Effective June 17th, as of now, the systems will be read-only to start the migration period, the transition of systems period. So please don't log in. Don't say, let me log in to see. We will prompt you when things are cleared for you to go in and start looking at the data. During that dark period, you will be able to print. You will be able to batch print, and I was told that you will also be able to run reports. You will not be able to add anything, make changes. As of June 14th, your data in the Enrich system will be static, unchangeable, cannot change, okay? I just want to be clear about that as we begin the migration period, June 17th, okay? Once again, some of you are still trying to send us results from the indicator 7, 11, and 12 that was posted in ADT on March 22nd. You do not have to return anything to us. Any corrections, any changes needs to be made within the system prior to your final submission. Once again, don't worry about those critical errors as it pertains to race, ethnicity, grade levels. We're only looking at the indicator-specific outcomes. If you have specific situations or unique circumstances about these reports, please send an email to the Special Education Services email folder. And I do have a slide coming up a little later with the contact for whomever for those specific reports that you may have or you want to tell us or give us information about. But once again, we want this to be as smooth as possible. We don't want the anxiety level to go up to 100, even though it may already be there. Once again, for your Table 4 report, we want to exit any students receiving a high school diploma and those receiving the high school employability credential as of the last day of school. Check with your PowerSchool person to make sure that those information, that the two systems align to allow for a smoother transaction. We know that these students that are on your Table 4 report for this year will be your indicator 14 students for next year. So we want that report to be as clean as possible because this is one report that will be impacted on the new system. So we want to make sure that we have a clear and precise way to get that information over into the new system so that we could run that indicator 14 report. Once again, your students graduating with a diploma and a high school employability credential, we want to make sure that they are exited as of the last day of school. Remember that students receiving the high school credential during the last year, the 22-23 reporting year, we made the change to exit them the year in which they received the employability credential. At the state level, we will keep a running list and we will remove them from the reports for future purposes should the students return. We do not want you to get double dinged or hit twice if a student receives a credential, come back and then leave again. You know, there have been chatter about how to code those kids. So we will keep a master list at the state and bounce it off of the year in which that date was submitted to the state and remove them from future reports should they get submitted again. Okay,
Carol,
we will, yes.
before you
Yes.
leave that, does the same hold true for students who receive a district credential, or should they wait until they no-show?
So we want to align it with what they do on the Power School side. Theoretically, those students, just send the date. Once again, send the date to us, I think, for consistency and flow of information. If they are receiving a district certificate or district certificate, go ahead and exit them as of the last day of school. And then if they come back in the following year, you can just add them back into your system. And if they, once again, if you exit them as of the last day of school, you don't have to worry about no showing. But based on what I do remember with the Power School, if the student is in your school on the last day of school, they are considered enrolled for the whole year, right? And so their information will go over, but 86 that for consistency, go ahead and exit them as of the last day of school and just do a re-enrollment should they return in the following year. I think that's the simplest thing to do versus, the waiting until next year, the whole back and forth hoopla for flow and ease of transition. Exit them as of the last day of school, and then you can pull them back in should they return in the future.
And the same holds true for credential students. We're going to exit them when they receive that credential, even if we know they're returning back to school the following
That
year.
is correct. That is correct. That is correct. We are going to keep our June 20th monthly meeting just in case. We don't know whether or not we will need to have the session, but just in case there's anything going on or we need an opportunity to update you on anything, we want to hold that slot in place just to be able to provide information. If we don't have anything to share with you, you will get a meeting cancellation probably the Monday or Tuesday of that week. I doubt very seriously if we will be having a meeting simply because that is also the week in which the SCDE will be moving to the new location. So it's a lot transpiring during that week, which is also the same week as the start of the dark period. So I don't think so, but it'll be there if we need it and go from there. Once again, submitting your data early as of the last day of school, but no later than June 14th. And the data that you are submitting are indicator 7, 11, 12, that IEP transition collection again, as well as your exiting table 4 report, no later than June 14th. It is with the utmost important that you begin this process and submitting these collections on your last day of school, but no later than June 14th. We're trying to prevent the system from hiccuping and timing out with so much coming through at once. We are going to work on clarifications or corrections based on your final report. So once we go through the data and clean it, scrub it, get it down to as federal ready as possible, then we will send something out maybe early July, August, sometime to get those clarifications, sometime after June 30th, let's say that, to just verify and confirm if there were any completions of these reports or any special situation of things that may have happened after you submitted. We want to give you an opportunity to compile that information and get it back to us with so much going on. Okay. On Tuesday, May 21st, during the LEA's director's call, that session will be dedicated specifically to the transition of systems, things to do, things not to do. That's where all of the information about the transition of system will happen. And that is May 21st at 3 p.m. I've included the information to join that call. Please be advised that this call is specifically for the directors, but I know that some directors are attending this call today, so I wanted to give you that information. So if you are on the call on behalf of your director, please encourage them to attend the call on Tuesday to get any information that may be conveyed about the transition of systems. Okay. We've been answering the questions in the chat, but to the team, do we have any questions that are unanswered?
Carolyn, before we jump into questions and I open the floor up, since we're running a little long, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the recording now. Is that okay?
Give it
Or do
give
you
it a
wanna
little
keep-
time. Yeah, I want to keep it in there simply because folks are having to leave, so I want them to get the full gamut of what is talked about.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. One
Okay.
second.
Thank you, Albert. Once again, if you have any special situations or comments or anything that we need to know about the reports, we want to streamline where the information is coming to so that anyone that's listed on this page will be able to get that information. And we have backups in place so that if anyone is out, there should be no delay in your responses just because someone is out. So Andrea is our key point of contact for indicators 7 and 12. Yolanda is indicator 11 and the table 4 exiting. We have Bevelyn Jackson, who's handling questions for ESY. Albert Roman is our key point of contact for indicator 14. And for partnering for the table 5, the tool and questions about the table 5 reporting, we have Albert and Yolanda. And then for indicator 8, we have Albert and Bevelyn. And of course, I'm everyone's backup. So if you have any questions, once again, just send it to the Special Education Services folder and someone will respond from there. We're trying to move away from sending to person specific and just put it in an open folder so that anyone on the team can address your questions. As always, we are here. If you have specific questions that you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do so as Albert opened up the floor for questions.
All right, yeah, participants can go ahead and unmute themselves if you have any questions or if your questions weren't answered in the chat, feel free to do so now.
I have a question, and I apologize if you have already gone over this, but indicator 14, if we submitted that we wanted the State Department to send out the postcards, those have already gone out?
No, as with everything, it's a process. So it is in the process. I've compiled the postcards. It is with the director getting approval. And then we have to send it over to our print shop. And I don't know what their schedule is like, but it's in the process of being sent out, which is another reason why I've extended it until the end of July to for the opt-in districts to complete.
Okay, so I'm just thinking we should probably give it some time for them to be able to do the survey on their own before we start calling them.
You can, but you know, that's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? You can go ahead and call them and tell them if they get the postcard, they can disregard it.
Okay,
Should you start calling now?
okay, great. And that will be updated in ADT on Mondays.
Yes, you will only get the results if you don't see a report in ADT with that specifically with the title survey results. That means that you have none. But the summary that I put in the email will list the districts that had survey results.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jen,
Oh,
back at the beginning, you were talking about the report that was coming, that you emailed about with the LRE corrections. It was like the
yes.
first or second slide, but it wasn't in our version of it.
Okay.
Did all districts get an email?
No.
Okay. Right.
Only to the impacted districts.
Okay, thank you. And
You're
another
welcome.
question, which I totally forgot. I can't remember. Another question though, can you review again what you said with some of the error messages that we might be getting and not to worry about? Because I did see
So-
someone in the
so-
chat had the same problem I do with the.
Okay,
it's the
so we're,
scheduling at RE codes.
yeah, we're not looking at race, ethnicity, those,
Okay,
race,
great.
ethnicity is needed for the table 4 report. So if you get a race, ethnicity, and it's twofold because sometimes the information is in PowerSchool and you have to go through that,
Okay.
update the profile and pausing it just to be able to save it and refresh the screen so that it could come up. We're not worrying about demographics for these reports because
Okay.
either the information should be in PowerSchool or in the enriched system. So we should be able to get that information based on what is coming through. And if Lori's still on the call, Lori, can you confirm that all information is coming up to the state for these reports, whatever errors that they're having, that comes through on the state. So if something is needed for the final report, we will convey that message to you when we're seeking clarification. I think that's the best way to do it versus having you to try to go in and make all of those issues for something that may not be needed. That will be a part of the transition because now PowerSchool is the front end that's capturing all of that data. So we're not going to worry about those things for these final submissions.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
that's more in regard to the demographic and enrollment, not
Correct.
when you see one that says error district, or district error, because that is in the outcome reason of the report that tells you the status is not one that the state can report on to the feds. So those kind of critical errors do need to be addressed. When it's preventing an outcome reason or outcome reason subcode, that tells you those you need to look at.
And even in those instances, Joan, if there is an error with the outcome code, you may or may not be able to get those corrected before the dark period. So once again, our fallback catch-all will be during that clarification time, and we can catch it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I did put my email in the chat. If anybody needed it, if you wanted to send an additional question or if you wanted to schedule for me to look at your data prior to submission with you.
And Lori, I'm going to add a slide in with your contact information and the days in which they can contact you to schedule those calls until June 14th, correct?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
great.
Okay.
And I will be sending Carolyn my PowerPoint as well, which she and I will update with any additional information or changes from, here I added some on table 4, Carolyn, as far as those categories that you should list the last day of school for.
Okay. Okay.
And if you'll double check that, and send it out.
Okay. Will do. And Lynn, I'm assuming you're referencing the incident management, the table 5. Typically, districts would have to submit that to the state the first week in July, but there is no submission for that report this year. So we're going to get that information directly from the state, from Aveen's, who is the interim director of Student Intervention Services. We'll get that data from her and the state will complete the Table 5 report on behalf of the district. The tool that we provided is just the means of you being able to download your data and check it against what we will have for discrepancies. We do encourage you to download the tool and run it if you are allowed to, based on the guidance from your technology department. If you can, send us some feedback. We greatly appreciate it. Yes, the LRE correction is as of the child count date, which is October 24th. Like I stated earlier, the students in that email had both, they were at least kindergarten and 5, which puts them in the school age population, but they had the separate class LRE code, which is in early childhood. I have mass changed those to the RC 39. So if the student's LRE code should be something other than RC 39, select the appropriate LRE code in the drop-down box in column H. And I will update the child count accordingly based on your corrections. If the RC 39, the mass change that I did, if that is correct, just send me an email confirming that those codes are correct to the Special Education Services email folder. And those LRE corrections are due by May 22nd.
Carolyn, and you're saying there should be options in the drop down box for H?
Yes, there should be a little arrow in column H beside the student's name, or the student's, not their name, but their son's ID number. In column H, there should be a little drop-down box right to the outside.
Okay.
If you need specific help with it, just give me a call after this and I'll walk you through it.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. And if we have no other questions, we do apologize for going over. We know it's a lot of information, but we definitely wanted to be able to share this with you today to help you as we start preparing for the transitions of systems. That is correct. You do not have to submit anything to us for Table 5. Just make sure that all of your corrections are completed within the incident management before that 3rd week in June. Okay. Okay, Albert, if you could go ahead and end us, and thank you guys so very much. Have